Hi guys, it's Carissa and I am going to film my week 23 and 24 update today. Today I turned 26 weeks. I feel like I've said this a few times before, but I really want to make sure that I make a point to say it now and really make it stick. Please bear with me. I know that some of you really look forward to updates and that's the main reason why you contact me, but please don't assume something is wrong because I haven't updated. I try to make my presence known on social media without being annoying on Instagram and Snapchat. So if you're curious about where things stand, you can check things there, but please don't just, I don't know, I feel like it puts bad vibes into the universe to assume that something's wrong, and that's why videos haven't gone up. We just got back from Mike's brother's wedding. There was a lot of preparation, getting ready for that, on top of just how crazy and hectic life is with work and trying to get ready for our little one to arrive. So I really envy anyone who sticks to a schedule just because I can't do that. I don't know. And I really want to continue to enjoy YouTube. I don't want to feel like it's a chore, even though I really hate to edit. And that's what takes so long, and that is what delays things the most. So please, thank you for being here and for being supportive, but please don't assume there's something bad going on, because that just makes me feel bad, and it just makes me feel like, I don't know, it just puts bad stuff out into the world, and I don't want those vibes out there. So week 23, I went to the eye doctor. I realized that I had missed my January appointment. I always have kind of a standing eye doctor appointment every January, and I don't know or remember why. I think maybe I just didn't get a notification and it came and went. So I missed it, and I had been complaining to you guys that my eyes were really dry. I was having trouble wearing my contacts because they just felt so cloudy all the time. Re-wetting drops didn't help at all. And even though glasses are an option and I have them, I just feel so uncomfortable with glasses on. I feel like there's just something on my face and in my field of vision, and I just don't like it. Also, there's a little bit of vanity that takes place there where I just don't like the way I look with glasses on, etc., etc. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe I should have an eye exam, because I guess I missed mine this year. Just a little bit of background. I used to have astigmatism in both eyes, and the previous January, so not this January but the one before, I had been told that I reversed the astigmatism in my right eye. So I had, I guess, regular contacts for my right eye and then specialty ones for my left. But my right eye was the one that was feeling the cloudiest and really irritated. So I, just out of curiosity, put one of my left contacts in my right eye because I used to have a very similar prescription, so I thought the vision won't be an issue, it's more a comfort thing. And it seemed like a world of difference. It seemed a lot better. So when I went to the eye doctor in week 23, I mentioned that to the optometrist, and it was just weird because he was like, that wouldn't mean anything, that doesn't mean anything at all. And then he checked my eyes and he said, oh, your astigmatism is back in your right eye. It looks like you used to have one and it went away and now it's back again. Ever since then, my eyes have felt so much better. Sorry, I was getting way too hot and sweaty with all that hair going on, so I had to put it up. So Mike and I had started watching a new show, and we're kind of in a weird place right now where we can only watch, you know, the first season of something, because a lot of the stuff that we are sort of invested in isn't back yet, and I know a lot of people go through that this time of year. So we were trying out a few new things, and it turned out that our daughter's name was on one of the shows, and it was like an unsavory character, actually, but it didn't spoil it for me at all. It was actually really nice to hear it, because we don't say it ever, just because well, we do sometimes, but not nearly as often as we could if we were being more open about it. Just because we don't want to get used to that and then slip up, I guess, at some point. It really isn't that important, but Mike does say it more often than I do. But it was just so nice to hear it, I guess, because I feel like it's a name that I don't hear very often, and I definitely don't hear it at least pronounced how we plan to pronounce it. Well, I hear it about 50-50 pronounced one way and then 50-50 pronounced another. but this was actually being pronounced the same way that we planned to, and it was just, I don't know, it was just so nice to hear it. In week 23, I started feeling lots of movement, lots of consistent movement. It seemed like it would happen right when I first woke up in the morning, either when I first woke up or once I had started to eat and drink something in the morning. And then throughout the day after eating, just about every time. At nighttime, I would get the majority of the movement that I would feel, and maybe the more prominent movements. It was certainly one of the most enjoyable parts of the day because it started to feel really on schedule. So right after dinner, we'd just sort of be sitting in the living room for a little while, sometimes watching something, and I'd lay down on my side and just sort of take it all in and just really enjoy all of the movement and feeling. It's amazing the things that you wait so long to experience and to feel, and then when they happen, there's some sort of like quiet peace about it, I guess. It just feels, I could never wrap my mind around the concept of feeling movement before. It just seemed like it was this faraway dream, and it was something that I'd never ever know what it was like. And now there's just something very reassuring and calming and centering about it, and it's not as exciting as I thought it was. I'm not saying it's not exciting, but it's just more reassuring than anything, and it means everything to me. The thing that I'm looking the most forward to next is Mike being able to feel it, because we've tried here and there. None of it's consistent enough or strong enough or in a good enough spot yet for, at least from what I can tell, for him to feel it. And we have tried a couple times with no luck, but I'm sure that'll be here before we know it. So I haven't really had any heartburn. I really haven't had anything that I should complain about, or even could complain about. That's just, I've been very, very lucky in that regard physically. But one night in week 23, Mike and I went out to a late dinner. He gets out of work pretty late most days during the week. And I have become accustomed to waiting to eat my last meal, or kind of splitting it and having two smaller meals later in the evening, just so that I can eat with him and spend the time with him. And one night we went out to dinner. So not only did we have to wait until he got out of work, but then we had to go somewhere, which took a little bit of time. And it was probably a lot more significantly late to eat than what we are used to at home. And I ordered something I've definitely gotten before. In fact, it was recently too, maybe about within a week or two prior. I had eaten this very same meal with my sister, and it was a small piece of chicken. It was made to be like chicken parmesan, but it wasn't, I don't know, it was like a take on chicken parmesan, I guess. And it came with 3 small stuffed shells. I ate it, everything was fine, it was delicious. Mike finished it because I couldn't finish it. And we came home and pretty much got ready for bed and went right to bed. So that's pretty rare. We usually eat right away once he gets out of work, and then we stay up a little bit and have time to sort of digest. But in this case, I went straight to bed pretty much on a full stomach. And the red sauce involved in this dish really did a number on me. I learned a very important lesson that night. I skipped the heartburn. I went straight to reflux. And probably around midnight, I don't know, we went to bed at maybe 10:30. Around midnight, I woke up and it was just this horrific burning and choking sensation happening all at once. I have never gone from being horizontal to vertical so quickly in my entire life. I felt like I was drowning in just hot acid in my throat. It was so awful. I came running downstairs, and what I should have done is just taken a second to Google it and to see what I should do. But instead, I immediately took 3 Tums, and then I gulped down a big glass of milk. Well, it turns out that actually helped, but I was just kind of going with an instinct of mine, like, what should I do to stop this? Because once the acid had come up in my throat, I felt like I couldn't recover, like I just couldn't breathe properly after that. And it was really, really uncomfortable. I don't know how people live with chronic reflux. I give them a lot of credit for having to deal with that. I don't know. If I never had to eat red sauce again for the rest of my life to avoid that, I would gladly do it. As much as I love it, it'd be out. Because it's just so scary and disruptive and uncomfortable. It's not painful, but it's just a lot of other awful feelings all at once. And that's probably been the most drastic, I guess, physical issue that I've had to even mention. And it was so brief. So I am really, really lucky. And I can't, in fact, just all it is at this point is a funny story, because I learned a lesson and I'll be much more careful from this point forward. In week 23, Mike and I made a very big and exciting purchase. We went to Home Depot during the Labor Day sale, so it was the weekend of Labor Day, and we purchased all of the paint for the nursery, which we had already picked out several weeks prior. But the room just really wasn't ready, and I didn't like the idea of buying the paint too early and possibly having to take it back to, you know, get remixed or anything. I just thought, let's wait until we're closer to that point, and it gives me a little bit of time to make some final decisions if I want to change anything. I didn't. I kept everything that I had originally selected. We were really happy with the colors that I had, and it was especially nice because there was a Labor Day sale, so there was a $10 rebate on each gallon of paint we purchased. So we're expecting a $50 rebate back in the mail from that, which is very nice. We also, because I moved my P.O. boxes from one location to another, just the process of signing up for that and forwarding the mail from one P.O. box to the next sort of flags us in the system as having moved, even though that's not really what happened. So we received a 10% off Lowe's coupon for, you know, like a new homeowner or a new move, which it's part of the kit that you get when you forward your mail. I'm sure you've all received one before if you've changed your address. And Home Depot actually accepts that coupon, so we got 10% off the paint in addition to the rebate, and our closet organizer, which is a pricey purchase. Oh my goodness. It's not that expensive compared to other purchases we'll need to make, but just for what it is, I guess, it's basically about $100 for a closet organizer, and it's just a bunch of wire shelving. But it will really come in handy. There wasn't any other sort of layout or product that I saw as being as useful as like a regular closet-made white wire organizing system. And you can purchase them individually. I had a different layout in mind that I would have preferred, kind of, but you would have had to purchase them individually, and some things we would have had to hand cut to the right sizes. And that would have been way more money and way more of a hassle, and I'm not that serious. Like, yes, it would have been ideal, but honestly, I'm not picky. So we looked at the pre-made sets, and there was one, I think it was about $90 for it, and it's perfectly fine. Mike set it up already, and it's great. So it was just nice to get a little bit of a break on that, though, because there really isn't a much cheaper way, at least not that I found, around setting something like that up. The last little note I have for week 23 was just something really sweet that Mike said. I had done a little bit of research because I had been feeling, I was just trying to cut back on the amount of bread that I was consuming, or just processed carbohydrates in general. It's quick, it's easy, it's bland. There are so many benefits to eating that way. But my body doesn't like that. My body treats those foods just like a Snickers bar. Honestly, it's of no benefit for me to really eat that way if I can avoid it. So I was trying to cut back on that. But it turns out because of that, I think I was kind of giving myself a little bit of an iron deficiency, because a lot of those foods come pre-enriched with iron. And I had been feeling extremely run down, and all I wanted to do was sleep. I had no energy. Physically, I just, like, my arms felt like noodles. I just knew something was off. I don't think it was serious enough where I would have needed to go to the doctor over it, but if it had continued to happen, I certainly would have called to see her sooner than what my next scheduled appointment was, and would have asked her about that. But I just Googled it to see sort of what would cause that logy, just mush feeling in a person when they're pregnant, and iron deficiency seemed to come up. And it said the kinds of, as I'm reading, the kinds of foods that help with that are all the foods that I had just sort of cut out. So I went to the grocery store, I picked up a big batch of spinach, because that was the other thing. I was eating spinach every single day, and I got so sick of it, so I stopped. Spinach obviously also is helpful. So I went to the grocery store, I got a big thing of spinach, and then just a few, like, of the other foods that I had been previously eating, that I figured I could just maybe pace myself and address that after pregnancy. I just feel like it's more important at this point to be sure that I'm eating regularly and that I feel good and that I'm taking care of myself. And I'm not thrilled with the way that I've been eating in terms of just pregnancy and my own body, but I also know that this is what feels and seems best for me right now, and I'll deal with the consequences later, and I will definitely hop back on the ketogenic diet train after the fact. So I'm going to try not to be as hard on myself and try not to just constantly have this nagging feeling in the back of my mind, like just constant guilt. I just feel constant guilt. And I just always feel so disappointed in myself. The truth is, taking one slice of sprouted whole grain bread and smearing a little bit of peanut butter on it, folding it in half and eating it is fast. It fills me up. It's filled with all sorts of great nutrition, and I'm getting a little bit of protein, and it's lower carb than other kinds of things I could be eating. You know, something like trying to cut something like that out of my busy work day, or just, hey, it's been a while since I've eaten, I'm hungry, and I just want a fast solution that I would enjoy eating. I feel like why would I complicate things further by skipping something like that? It could be much, much worse. I'm not eating French fries, and I don't know. I'm trying really hard not to be so hard on myself, but I'm sure I'll keep doing it. So anyway, long story short, I had just come back from the grocery store, and Mike had just come home from work, and I was unloading the groceries, and I said, I actually made an impromptu trip to the store because I was doing some research on why I feel so run down lately. And Mike interrupted me and said, is it because you're pregnant? and I kind of laughed, and then he said, hey, you're pregnant. And it was just such a really nice moment. It was so cute. And I think we get so caught up lately in the things that we have to do, and the time feels like it goes by so quickly, and we get tired. You know, he works so much, and he does a lot to help his parents, and his spare time is very, very limited, and there's so little that we feel like we're going to accomplish by the time she's here. And I know that'll be fine. We'll get things done. We'll be okay. But I think we are so task focused that that the emotion, it's not that it's not there, but the emotion gets set aside because we just want to make the best situation for her for when she's here that we possibly can. So that was just such a sweet thing that he said, and I didn't want to forget it. And speaking of all of those things, that is what week 24 is full of. So here we go. Probably the biggest thing about week 24 was that I took my glucose test. It was a 1-hour glucose test. I was asked to do it before my next appointment with my doctor, which was on the 19th, which was yesterday. I'm trying to decide if I should be mean and not give you the results because I didn't know them yet in week 24, or if I should, you know, if I should just leave. I don't know if I should leave them for week 25. Probably not, because it's going to take me 2 weeks to put that up, just like usual. So I'll just tell you. So she asked me to take the glucose test, and she wanted me to do it slightly earlier than what a lot of doctors do, just as standard practice. I know that there are a lot of people who take that even earlier, just based on risk factors and how they're feeling, and if they have any sugar in their urine, which I never have, but I had expressed a few concerns to my doctor, and I think that set up a little bit of a flag where she said, well, let's do this a little bit early. They gave me the orange drink and the instructions and said, set it up whenever, you know, go ahead and do it whenever you are ready to. Just be sure you do it before your next visit so we can go over it with you then. So I felt like I had put it off long enough, but honestly, I was eating more sugar than I should have in week 23. I had kind of taken to having sugar just so I could feel the baby move. Not a lot, but a couple of times here and there throughout the week, I remembered feeling like I hadn't felt her move enough that day. And I know I'm a few weeks away from needing to actually count kicks and worry about that, but it was feeling like a point of stress for me. So I would have just like 5 little gummy candies or a very small glass of juice. I have a low sugar juice, but I got a little bit addicted to having that physical reaction. That was towards the beginning of week 23, and it would always make me nervous to do my glucose test the next day after having eaten something sugary a couple of times throughout the course of the day prior, which I know probably doesn't alter things that much, but I just didn't want to risk affecting my results. I also very stupidly, in my opinion, looked up, I think I Googled something like, things, or something I wish I knew before taking my 1-hour glucose test. And I read one blog article, where a woman said, I'm sure if you Google this, you would find it. It comes up as one of the top results. She says sort of the tale of how she went through and failed the 1 hour but passed the 3-hour for both of her pregnancies and the things she learned. And she said something about eating plain piece of toast with peanut butter on it. Well, I just mentioned to you that that's something that I eat, that I like to eat here and there throughout the week. Sometimes just midday, like just a quick snack. So I thought, no problem. I normally wouldn't eat that for breakfast, but I thought, no problem, I'll do that the morning of the test. Well, after I took the test, everything I read, because for some reason I decided to look it up after the fact, said not to do that. No bread. It was all just very high protein, low carb things like eggs. Some doctors say only egg whites, whatever. There's so much information out there, and I chose not to look past the one article I read. I drank the drink. I went into the lab, and it just happened to be the busiest I've ever seen the lab, so I felt like a real jerk cutting the line in front of all of these people. But I had to have my blood drawn first, basically, because I got there with only about 15 minutes available to draw it. I drank the drink exactly at 8 a.m. and at 9 a.m. I needed my blood drawn. And this is a lab I go to all the time for everything, and I've never seen them so busy before. When I got there, they said, we don't have your order, so we don't know what we're testing for. And of course, they were frustrated, and I was upset and embarrassed and frustrated, and I'm like, I'll come back then. Well, she said, well, we don't want you to drink that again. We don't want you to have to go through that again. And it's weird because I've heard a lot of people complain about the glucose test. A lot of people don't like it. To me, I was like, what's the big deal? I've heard a lot of people say like the drink is gross. Honestly, it's not. It tastes like the freezer ice popsicles, the ones that come in like the plastic sleeve. It tastes like just a melted one of those. I had an orange flavor one. I don't know. That's how it seems to me. It's not certainly anything that I would want to drink regularly, but it's not gross. So for some reason, I assumed that that was what it was she was talking about, that she was like, we don't want you to have to drink that again because it's gross. No, I learned. It's because you have the most epic, disgusting sugar crash. It felt all day long, and now this isn't how everybody reacts to it, but I felt like I had taken Benadryl. I could not keep my eyes open. I felt like I was slurring my speech. I felt like I couldn't focus on anything, and I had to watch one of my nieces that day. Luckily, she was glued to the TV, and she was happy with a little cup of popcorn, and she was only here for an hour. But I was not in any position to be in charge of a toddler that day. I couldn't believe how awful I felt. I slept for 4 or 5 hours that day. I didn't work. I didn't do any housework or cleaning. I was done. And by the time I woke up later that day, I felt slightly better, but honestly, I probably could have slept for 10 hours that day. I felt so sick. So now I know why people say that and why people complain about it and why the woman at the lab was so insistent. She's like, no, I will call your doctor because I don't want you to have to do that again if you don't have to. So I'll just tell you because it's mean not to. I think 1 or 2 days later, I received a lab report back because it's all linked through the same hospital. So my primary care physician gets lab results from other doctors I see. and they process it through their system, they review it, and then they save it, and I get to see the results earlier than being called for it. And I was always under the impression that you don't want to score over 140. Over 140 is considered an issue, and it's considered out of range. So I was preparing myself for that. I was also kind of preparing myself for bad news because I have like 4 of the 5 factors of women who get gestational diabetes, because I'm obese and I'm like close to advanced maternal age, and I have PCOS and I have insulin resistance, and so it was like, well, if I don't get this, that would be shocking. So I'm okay with that. I will do anything I need to do at any point. I'm not worried about it. But obviously, it would be nice to not have to deal with that and to not have to do the 3-hour glucose test. So I received the results, and mine was 134, but it was out of 135. 135 or higher would have been considered out of range. So for the next few days, I had decided, okay, well, that probably means even though I'm within range, they're going to make me do that test anyway. I'm still probably considered at risk. But when I went to see my doctor yesterday, she said, no, that's normal and you don't have to. So I don't know if it's normally out of 140, but that's sort of the ideal range. And then between 135 and 140, they make decisions based on that. I don't know. Or if they've changed, or if, I don't know. If it's at the discretion of the doctor, etc. So I got really lucky. And she said that I'm going to do the 1 hour one more time, I think at week 28, I believe. So in week 24, we painted the nursery. Some of you may have seen footage on Snapchat. We have not made any progress since, just because of Mike's brother's wedding and getting ready for that. And also we just wanted to take a little bit of a break because it is pretty physically exhausting, because we had a stencil that we chose to do. And the stencil isn't perfect, so I'm going to have to go back through and touch it up. I hate the thought of soothing a child to sleep at 3 a.m. and just staring at that wall and looking at all the mistakes in the middle of the night, knowing I should have done something about it, but I'll never have the time once I have a baby. So I will eventually be going back through to just sort of clean up the edges on some parts of the stencil. And then we also have to do the trim, which Mike may do the trim while I do the stencil repair. It's kind of nice. We just play some music and hang out for the day in the room, and we get a lot of progress made, especially when we're working together. So Mike even just said to me yesterday, he's like, I can't wait to work on my daughter's room again. I really am looking forward to that. So I thought that was so sweet. The stencil did not come out well. I don't know. It felt like baking. Like there were too many variables. The stencil I did in the kitchen a couple of years ago came out like a dream. I feel like maybe the wall was bumpier, even though we sanded it and prepared it as well as we could have. The only variables that really could have been a factor, obviously, are the paints. Not only the actual paint that we used, but maybe the color contrast, because there was more of a contrast there. The foam roller I used was a different brand, but it was very, very close to the one I used on the prior stencil. And the stencil was from a different company than the other one, which is sort of what I've been leaning towards as being the issue. But it's done now, and from a distance it looks really good. I just know myself, and I know I want to touch it up a little. In week 24, I noticed that my belly was starting to feel a little bit itchy. That was temporary, I guess. It was only for a few days because I haven't noticed it since. I do know that I'm sort of getting to a point where I must pretty consistently be going through some kind of growing spurt, because my belly does feel achy, crampy, but not like menstrual cramps. It just feels unwell. It feels just uncomfortable. And I think part of that is just the sheer size of it and the weight of everything that's in my belly on my belly. But I'm sure that is also affecting the skin, and that was sort of what was causing some of the itching. It's still summery weather here. It's still pretty humid. It's still pretty warm. So I don't think it's really an environmental thing. I don't think it's like dry skin from the fall quite yet, but I've been just moisturizing as well as I can and trying not to itch. And in week 23 and 24, actually, I did really well with sleep. I slept very well. No middle of the night hunger, no heartburn, except for that one, except for that one issue. I had really good sleep. No insomnia. I'd go to bed, sleep through the night, except for the occasional bathroom break, and wake up at a normal time, and it was great. So one of the notes I have here for week 24 is that I was getting a lot of new movement, new feeling movement. It's funny because I haven't had this since, but it was happening a lot in week 24. It was almost every day. I noticed it most when I was sitting, not laying down. And so like when I was sitting at my desk and working. And the kicks felt very wobbly, or the movement felt very wobbly, and it made me think of those, I don't know the correct terms, but if you've ever watched a live orchestra and they have that big like sheet of metal that kind of sounds like thunder and they'll like wobble it. I don't know how else to describe it, because that's the exact thing that it made me think of every time. And it would be kind of violent and jostly and really noticeable. And it would go on for, you know, several seconds, 20 to 30 seconds, and then it would stop. So I don't know if that's a particular kind of movement that I'm feeling, or if those were kicks and I had never felt kicks before and I'd only really felt punches and other types of moving, but I haven't really had it since. It hasn't really been that noticeable, so I don't know if that's something I have to look forward to going forward, or if that was just some strange phenomenon of just something she was doing at that time that was causing that. It was like a phase she was going through, her orchestra phase. In week 24, Mike's mother went to a bunco game that she does, I don't know, I think once a month with some friends, and they rotate, you know, whose house they go to for who hosts it. And she went to a friend's house, and at the end, they surprised her with a grandma shower, and I thought that was really sweet. They had a lot of gifts for her just related to her becoming a grandmother for the first time. I thought that was really sweet. And week 24, if I haven't mentioned it enough, was preparation to leave town. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who travel a lot. There are a lot of people who go places all the time for work, for whatever. It's kind of a big ordeal for us to leave because we have a lot of pets. So we have to arrange care for them. And now normally Mike's parents would help us with that because they live right down the street and they're well versed in what our pets' needs are. But they were going with us. So we had to sort of explore new avenues for what we were going to do. Luckily, a lot of our pets are self-sufficient. They're like terrarium dwelling animals, so we could just give them extra food and water and they would be fine. It was mainly the cats and the chickens we had to worry about the most, but we were able to arrange care for that. My dad was really nice to watch after the chickens for us and check in on the cats. And then just in general, making sure that we had everything we needed. Honestly, if it was just a weekend getaway, I wouldn't have needed to bring my hot rollers and my flat iron and false eyelashes and just like all in like 3 or 4 different dresses because I didn't know which one I was going to wear. But it was a wedding, so there was a lot more involved in it. And we were both in the wedding, so we had to look our best and just be really prepared and make sure that we had everything we needed. And she had asked me to put together the bouquets, so I picked up flowers locally. And look, I mean, they were very, very simple bouquets. It wasn't a lot of stress in terms of actually making them. But the transport of the flowers and hoping that they were fresh and the right ones and just everything, I wanted it to be right. I just wanted to make sure that everything went smoothly, and there was a lot of mental and physical preparation that comes with getting ready to go out of town, especially for a big event. So the next event that we have coming up is a baby shower. It's our first baby shower. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. So I had previously arranged for something through a local florist for that. I've had my dress ready and just a few little touches for it. But for the most part, it's going to be kind of low-key and relaxed. I've decided against games, I guess, just because of the venue and the circumstance, the time of day, and the length of the shower. I just wanted to make sure that we could make it as compact as possible and not have it be too long or too much work for anybody. So, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing people that I love so much all in the same room together for something that I never thought would happen. And I get to meet my friend Molly, who's one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Mike said that Mike said, I can tell you like her because you don't like anybody and you like her. So but she is making a really long drive to come out and be here for my baby shower, and I appreciate that so much. And I don't know, I just feel a lot of love and emotion surrounding that, and I hope I'm not a complete wreck the whole time. I hope I can pull it together. Knowing me, I'll stuff it all in, and then at the end of the night I'll just cry. I'll cry all night and then cry like 3 days after the fact. So we'll see. That is it for week 23 and 24. Thank you for being so patient with me with my updates and with my really slow editing. Speaking of editing, I have a huge baby gifts video. It was supposed to be 2 separate videos, possibly 3 separate videos, but I'm just compiling them all because there was a problem with my editing software and it ruined the first video. And I don't know how. I was lucky enough, but I still had the original file, which never happens. I go on deleting sprees as soon as something is done. But I got ready to post that just before I left, and I realized that there was a major glitch with it. So I'm gonna go back through and re-edit the entire thing from scratch and add the other baby gifts videos to that, because we have received some incredibly generous and wonderful heartfelt gifts from you guys, and I want to share it and be able to thank you the best that I can. So thank you so much. Thank you for watching and for supporting us and for being so sweet and wonderful. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.